The night on planet Varela 9 was silent and endless. The stars looked cold and distant, and the broken moon cast a weak silver light over the desert of black sand. Captain Marcus Hale sat alone near a small campfire that crackled against the wind. His uniform was torn, his hands bruised, and the fire was the only warm thing left in that frozen world. The wreck of his shuttle lay a few hundred meters behind him, half buried in dust. Its engines were gone, its beacon dead. He had survived the crash, but no one was coming for him. The nearest colony was 4 sectors away, and his radio could barely reach the next hill. He stared at the flames, thinking about his crew. They were gone, scattered when the ship tore apart during re-entry. For 3 days, Marcus had searched the endless plain, shouting their names into the wind. But the planet gave no answer. It felt like he had landed on a graveyard. The silence was so deep that even his heartbeat sounded loud in his ears. The only comfort was the small fire he had built, a fragile symbol that humanity still existed here. As he sat there, a strange feeling began to creep over him. It was not fear exactly, but something colder, something that made the hair on the back of his neck rise. It was the sense that he was being watched. The desert was wide and empty, yet the shadows seemed to move when he looked away. He reached for his plasma pistol, checked the charge, and listened. The wind shifted and he heard it. Footsteps, light and slow, crunching the sand. They stopped when he turned his head. "Who's there?" he called out. His voice broke the silence like glass. No answer came. Only the fire hissed as if whispering something to itself. Then he saw it. A shape moving through the mist. Tall, slender, graceful. It was walking toward the fire with calm steps. Marcus aimed his pistol, ready for anything. The figure came closer until the light revealed her face. It was a woman, or something that looked like one. Her skin was pale like moonlight, her eyes silver and shining faintly, and her long black hair fell across her shoulders like a river of night. She looked at him with calm eyes, not afraid of the weapon pointed at her. Marcus could not move. He had seen many alien species during his service, but none like her. She seemed both fragile and strong, human and not human at the same time. "Stop right there," he said firmly. "Identify yourself." The woman raised her hand slowly, showing she carried no weapon. Her voice, when she spoke, was soft and strange, as if it came from a place older than the stars. "Do not fear me, human. I came because I smelled the fire and the blood." Marcus stiffened. His wounds from the crash were still fresh. He had wrapped them, but maybe the scent had carried in the wind. Her words made his heart pound faster. "Who are you?" he asked. "My name is Solara," she said. "I am of the Vrin." She stepped closer, and Marcus could see faint patterns glowing beneath her skin, like veins of light. "Your people called us monsters once, but we were never that. We are guardians, hunters of energy, not of life." He frowned. The name sounded familiar. The Vrin were a myth told in early exploration days, a race that had vanished during the Great Solar War centuries ago. He had studied them once at the academy. According to history, they had helped humans settle the first outer worlds before disappearing without trace. Yet here stood one, alive. "You expect me to believe that?" he asked. "Your kind went extinct 200 years ago." Her eyes shimmered with sadness. "Extinct, yes. Forgotten, never. My people built this world before the war. We placed our hearts beneath its crust, waiting for peace to return. When your ship fell from the sky, the shock awoke me from my long sleep." Marcus lowered his weapon slightly. She didn't seem hostile. There was something gentle about her tone, something that reminded him of humanity's better nature. "If this was your world," he said, "why are you here alone?" She looked into the fire. "Because the world is dying. The air that once fed us now poisons us. I can survive only by drawing small fragments of energy from the living, not blood." She added quickly, seeing his expression tighten. "Energy, emotion, the strength of a human heart." Marcus didn't understand at first. "You feed on feelings?" "On courage," she said. It is pure. It does not destroy what it touches. I came to your fire because I felt it in you. You are afraid, yet you still fight. You still light the dark. Her words struck something inside him. He looked at the fire again and then at her. She sat across from him without asking permission, her hands folded neatly in her lap. Her presence was calm, like the quiet before dawn. For a long time, neither of them spoke. The wind moved through the rocks, carrying faint echoes that might have been voices. After a while, Marcus asked quietly, "You said your people helped humans once?" "Yes," she said softly. "Long ago, when your ancestors first touched the stars, the Vryn guided them through the outer storms. We built together, fought together, dreamed of a shared future. Then the war came. Fear grew. Humans called us parasites. We called them destroyers. In the end, we both lost." She looked up at the sky, her eyes reflecting the dying stars. The galaxy was smaller then, brighter. "I sometimes wish I had stayed asleep." Marcus studied her face. There was no hatred there, only weariness. "You said you needed courage to survive," he said. "If I let you take it, what happens to me?" "Nothing," she replied. "You would feel lighter, perhaps warmer. I would live another day, but I will not take what is not freely given." Marcus hesitated. He remembered the academy stories of the Vryn, stories filled with fear and superstition. But this woman was not a monster. She was just a survivor, like him. He lowered his weapon completely. "You can sit closer to the fire if you want," he said quietly. She smiled for the first time, a small and gentle smile. "Thank you, Captain." They sat together as the night deepened. The firelight painted gold lines across her pale skin. Marcus asked her about her people, and she told him stories of ancient cities built on floating islands, of music that shaped the wind, and of the oath they once shared with humankind. "The oath of the twin suns," she called it, "to guard the weak and keep the balance of the stars." He listened with quiet wonder. The way she spoke made those old legends feel real. And when she described the last days of her kind, their cities turning to dust, their stars going dark, her voice trembled just enough to make his heart ache. It wasn't just a story, it was her memory. The fire began to fade, its warmth shrinking into faint embers. Marcus added the last piece of fuel, but it wouldn't last long. He looked at Solara. She was watching the flames as if seeing something far away. "What are you thinking about?" he asked. She turned to him, her silver eyes glowing faintly in the dark. "About destiny," she said softly, "and about how fragile it is. You came from the sky like a falling star. It was not by chance." He frowned. "What do you mean?" Solara's voice became quieter, almost like a whisper carried by the wind. "Your arrival was foretold, Captain, long before you were born. The ancient pact spoke of a human who would come carrying the last light of Earth. I am here to protect it." Marcus stared at her, stunned. "That's impossible, I'm just a pilot." "You are more than that," she said. "Your courage reached across the void and woke me from centuries of sleep. Do you think that is an accident?" The words sent a chill through him. He didn't know what to say. The fire cracked softly, throwing a spark into the air. Solara looked at it with calm eyes. "When the last flame fades," she whispered, "the true test begins." Marcus tried to ask what she meant, but the wind rose suddenly, sweeping dust and light into a spiral around them. He covered his face, blinking through the storm. When it cleared, she was gone. Only the fire remained, burning low, and beside it lay a thin trail of glowing dust that shimmered like frost. He stood slowly, looking around, calling her name. There was no answer. The night swallowed his voice. Far away, lightning flashed over the horizon, lighting the ruins of forgotten towers buried in the sand. Marcus stared at them, his heart beating faster. Something ancient was waking beneath that world, and somehow he was part of it. He looked down once more at the faint dust near the fire and whispered her name again. The stars above gave no reply, but deep inside, he knew this was only the beginning. Morning came slowly to the world of Varela 9. The cold air shimmered above the black sands, and the weak sunlight painted the sky in shades of silver and gold. Marcus opened his eyes to find the fire reduced to a few dying embers. The wind carried the same silence as before, but something was different. The air felt heavier, like the world was holding its breath. He stood stretching his sore muscles and looked around. Solara was nowhere to be seen. He walked a short distance from the camp, scanning the horizon for any sign of her. The landscape was strange and haunting. Rock towers that looked melted, rivers of glass frozen in mid-flow, and giant crystal shards jutting out from the ground. It looked less like a planet and more like the memory of one. Then he saw something ahead, half buried in the sand. A tall metallic spire, faintly glowing under the morning light. Marcus approached it carefully. The spire was old, covered in alien symbols that shimmered faintly when touched by sunlight. He brushed away the sand and realized they were not just marks, they were writing. And mixed between the alien curves were words written in English. His heart raced. It said, "When the light of earth flickers, the guardian shall awaken." He stepped back, stunned. The same phrase Solara had whispered last night. Was it really possible? Could humans and the Vryn have shared this place once? He traced the letters again, trying to imagine the history buried under this dust. Then, from behind the ruins, a familiar voice echoed through the wind. "You found the memory of our promise." He turned. Solara stood there, her figure half hidden by the mist. She looked pale, weaker than before, but her eyes still glowed with calm strength. Marcus walked toward her, both relieved and full of questions. "You disappeared last night. I thought you were gone." "I had to see the old towers," she said softly. "I needed to be sure they still lived beneath the sand. The heart of this world still beats, Captain, but faintly." She motioned for him to follow, and together they walked toward a cluster of stone pillars rising from the desert. Each pillar was engraved with the same mixed language, human and alien side by side. It was proof that the two races had once built something together. The deeper they went, the more the air began to hum, a low vibration that Marcus could feel through his boots. At the base of the largest pillar, Solara stopped. A circular gate stood embedded in the stone, sealed shut by age. "Beyond this," she said, "lies the heart of Varela, the planetary core reactor. Long ago, it was our greatest creation. It gave life to the air, the oceans, the light. But when the war came, the reactor was locked. Without its power, this world has been dying ever since." Marcus stepped closer. "You said it can be reactivated?" She nodded. "Yes, but it needs a living link, someone with both human and Vryn energy. Alone, I cannot do it. But with you," she met his eyes. "Together, we might awaken it." He hesitated, thinking of the risks. If it failed, the entire planet could collapse. But if it worked, it could save not only this world, but perhaps others too. The thought of giving life back to a lost world stirred something deep inside him. "Then let's try," he said. Solara placed her hands on the gate. The symbols lit up in a soft blue glow, pulsing like a heartbeat. The heavy doors slowly opened, revealing a long staircase spiraling downward into the earth. Warm air drifted up from below, filled with the scent of old machinery and dust. They descended together. The walls shimmered with veins of crystal light, and faint echoes of forgotten music played in the distance. It felt like walking through time itself. When they reached the bottom, Marcus gasped. The core chamber was enormous. A massive sphere of glowing energy floated in the center, surrounded by broken metallic rings. Streams of blue light connected the floor to the sphere, flickering weakly like a dying star. The room hummed with ancient power waiting to be reborn. "This is the heart," Solara said softly. "It remembers everything." She moved to the central console, brushing off layers of dust. "I can guide the sequence, but I need your energy to bridge the link. The core reads living emotion. It must sense hope, courage, and will." Marcus took a deep breath and stepped beside her. "Then let's give it everything we've got," she smiled faintly. "You remind me of the humans I once knew." Together they began the process. Solara placed her hands on the console and Marcus followed. Instantly the platform vibrated, and light spread through the chamber. Images appeared around them, ghostly scenes of the past. Humans and Vryn working side by side, building cities, laughing, dreaming of the stars. Marcus felt their joy, their pride, their unity. It flowed through him like fire. But then came the darker memories, Warships burning, the alliance breaking, worlds falling into silence. The images twisted into chaos. Marcus gritted his teeth and focused. "Stay with me," he said. Solara's voice trembled. "I can feel it fighting us. The system resists change." "Then push harder," Marcus said, placing his hand over hers. "We're not giving up." The sphere pulsed violently. A beam of light shot upward through the ceiling, and the ground shook. The old machinery roared to life, ancient engines humming again after centuries. Marcus's vision blurred as the energy surged through him. It was painful, but not unbearable. It was like standing in the middle of a storm that wanted to test his heart. Finally, with a blinding flash, the core stabilized. The hum softened into a steady rhythm. The light spread outward through the tunnels, racing across the planet's surface. Outside, the dead skies began to brighten and the frozen rivers started to melt. When it was over, Marcus collapsed to one knee, breathing heavily. Solara knelt beside him, her expression filled with relief and gratitude. But she looked weaker than before, her light fading. "You did it," he said, gripping her shoulder. "You saved this world." "No," she whispered. "We did, but the cost was high. My bond with the core is fading. I gave it too much of myself." Marcus shook his head. "No, you're not leaving me here alone." He quickly connected his suit's power cell to her chest plate. The energy flowed from him to her and her eyes flickered open. "You're giving me your life force," she murmured. He smiled weakly. "Just returning the favor." The chamber grew calm again. Above them, faint light poured down through the cracks, signaling the birth of a new dawn. The once dark sky was now a swirl of blue and gold. Solara stood slowly, her strength returning. "Look," she said softly. "The world breathes again." Marcus followed her up the staircase, emerging into the open air. The cold had softened, replaced by a gentle warmth. The crystal towers glowed faintly, alive once more. The horizon shimmered with fresh light, and wind carried the faint scent of growing life. Solara turned to him, her eyes shining. "The humans will find this place again. When they do, tell them the Vryn kept their promise." He nodded. "And so did humanity." She stepped closer, studying him. "You are not just a soldier, Marcus. You are a spark of what your people once were." He looked at her with quiet respect. "And you reminded me what we could still become." The beacon on his wrist flashed, signal restored. Rescue ships would soon arrive. Marcus looked toward the sky, then back at her. "What will you do now?" "I will stay," she said. "This is my home. My duty is here." He hesitated, wanting to argue, but saw peace in her expression. She belonged to this world now, and he knew it. He extended his hand. "Then I'll come back someday." Solara smiled gently. "I will be waiting by the fire." The wind moved around them, carrying soft whispers across the reborn desert. The sun rose higher, painting the sky in colors that hadn't been seen on Varela 9 for centuries. Marcus stood there for a long time, watching her silhouette against the light, an alien guardian, a reminder of hope reborn. When his ship finally appeared in the distance, Marcus turned once more. The woman who had once approached his campfire now stood at the edge of a living world, her eyes bright, her spirit unbroken. He smiled to himself and whispered into the wind, "You were right, Solara. The fire never dies." And with that, Captain Marcus Hale walked toward the future, carrying not just the last light of Earth, but the promise of two civilizations that had finally remembered how to dream together again.